Very good.
Hey, kia ora koutou everyone. Welcome to our council meeting for Wednesday, the 18th of February. If we can be upstanding for our karakia timatanga. Mai te pai mamita,
Ki te pai, mai te awa toka, alu ki te awa raki, tēnei te hapuri, apia e tarataki.
whānau, aira mai
Mai te toki.
Haumi
e tārai.
Yeah. Everyone. I'll start with apologies. We have one apology from Joel Ngatiri, who can't make today. He has a very important appointment up north. And welcome to Brian online. Look forward to your participation. I'll just start with I just want to spend a minute, if we can, just remembering a couple of people who have actually passed away in the last few weeks, and one of them was Barbara Durbin, and the other is Bill Knowles, who's passed away in the last couple of days. Both were ex-councillors of Carden, and both contributed an outstanding amount of voluntary service to our community. And I'd like us to stand and just have a minute's silence for those two people. Thank you, everyone. I didn't move the apologies. Move the apologies accepted. Thank you, Councillor Newman. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Conflicts of interest? Anyone got a conflict of interest? No. Public forum? No. Discussion of public forum? No. Youth council views on agenda items? Sadly, we didn't receive youth council views. Our two officers were busy in the emergency operations centre and didn't manage to catch up with our youth council. But I hear that they are in favour of Carrington Park. So keep that in mind. Item 7, confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meeting held on 10th of December. Do we have any matters arising from those?
I just had one question. With regards to the item that the Wairarapa councils were going to write a letter and we were going to circulate it to the local MPs. Did that get circulated to the MPs?
The letter to the Local Government Commission?
Yes.
I will double check. I thought Marsden were doing that, but I will take an action to confirm that I do believe it. I think so. I need to confirm whether it went to all MPs.
Thank you.
I requested it when I saw the draft come out because our request was going to the MPs and I requested in South Wairarapa. We were managing that letter.
Any further? We have one recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 10th of December 2025 are true and correct. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Burns. Thank you, Councillor Round. All in favour? Against? Carried. Reports. 8.1.
Kia ora. Thank you. There's a lot going on in our report, everything from our event centre roof, library activities, term plan and consenting. Interesting that consenting activities and LIMS have picked up the first part of the year, which is actually really good business, really good to see that activity pick up. Our Planning is well underway for the annual plan, and we are starting the planning for the long-term plan, which we will consider adopting in about a year's time. A few people changes with the new animal control officer on board, and unusual for the C's report, but there is a recommendation following this morning's projects and policy meeting where there was consideration given to some changes in terms of the budget and the budget lines. Obviously, policy and projects don't approve the budget. That needs to come up to council. So this report does include a recommendation around some proposed changes to our waters and wastewater budgets for the. I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks, Chief. Questions? Yes, report. No question.
I can ask a question.
Thank you, Councillor Newman.
Page 26, people and wellbeing. We have offboarded the animal control officer and onboarded a senior animal and bylaws officer. What's the difference?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer the question. Solitaire may wish to jump in. We've spoken about how we are changing some of our roles, and when we reconsider the roles as people leave, and that's what we've done in this case. So one of the functions that our environmental health officer used to undertake was the bylaws. So we've shared those responsibilities out amongst some of the regulatory team staff, and bylaws was one of the things that was still left over. So with the opportunity of the new animal control officer coming on board, we often find that they also have to enforce bylaws, and they're the person out there with the most ability to deal with the public. So we've added that into this role, noting that we've made a decision previously not to replace the environmental health officer role. It's sharing out the roles and responsibilities.
And one more question in that same space. We've offboarded a cleaner. Are we now contracting that out?
Yes.
So it's going to look like our headcount numbers come down, but we're still.
It's a part-time role.
Okay.
It's not a large number of hours.
It's a bit of a shift. Okay, cool. That was all. Thank you.
Slightly similar, the title of the event centre team leader now event centre manager, is that a difference in practice?
Not particularly, no.
Just going back one, is Dave no longer with us or?
No. So the PJ is now an animal control officer. Dave came down. He had family here in Carterton. Unfortunately, his wife chose to stay in Hawke's Bay, and so he's gone back to be with his wife. They were anticipating moving down here, and eventually things didn't quite work out for that move. So sadly, he's moved back to Hawke's Bay, and we've got PJ.
Deputy Mayor.
I had a question with regards to noise. I was reading through on page 24, talking about the fact that our council has spent nearly $6,000 on the dealing with noisy ratepayers, and we were only able to recover $1,200 of that. And I'm just wondering if you could talk to that issue and what we can do to make sure that our ratepayers aren't subsidising the naughty ones.
There's a lot in there. Perhaps I could ask Solitaire to.
So we can only recover if we issue an end notice.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot recover any costs from a general call out. So if you bring up about a noise now about attend, we get $155 bill every time they go out. And that's a public good component. Yes, that has always had portion, the regulatory and the funding split that as user pays, but we do have the public of that portion of public good. So often if it's a first end notice that's ever been served on a property, it's actually just pushing it whether we could then recover because we don't have a pattern of noise. It could just be that it has gone on a bit too long, and a lot of the time it can just be, hey, if this happens again, we will recover that cost.
Mhm.
But you'll also notice in that noise report that we've worked on updating, because we need some new books to give to the contractors. So we've actually updated that so that any end notice that we issue has a legal effect for 8 days, which you can go to and act. Previously it was 74 hours. So by putting it for an 8-day period, but also cover the following weekend in case that behaviour happened again. And then if they were to do it again, we issue another end notice, we can do a $1,000 infringement straight off. As opposed to then trying to recover individual end notices. So yeah, and that fees and charges, we say recover all reasonable costs.
Mhm.
So it's then that decision on what is reasonable and what is not. We have also written to some properties that call us on a reasonably frequent basis and given them the noise assessment matrix and asked them to consider their call against this matrix, because if we're constantly getting called out because of one person and Armagata attending and not issuing an end notice because the noise is reasonable, this is a direct rate pay cost because somebody's got maybe more sensitive to noise than other people.
Yeah.
And one of the call outs that had been a regular call out, that has actually resulted in a couple of end notices, and that is the one that also got issued with the abatement notice. So, he might be calling a lot, but obviously that noise is at that borderline level, and that's ramping up and coming back down. But, that was one that ended up in the abatement notice. So we might have had 15 calls from this one property, but actually we've got a result of a 6-month abatement notice now.
Yeah.
Does that sort of make a bit of sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I just want to make sure that, the management know that you'd have our support to recoup costs wherever we can there.
Brilliant.
Yes.
May not be relevant to this particular meeting. I think we talked about it from a workshop. I just want to know, are we progressing with getting a business case for the Wainawa water thing? I think we agreed to get that underway. Is that a topic for this particular meeting or later?
That's a great question to ask our WED's Economic Development Group when they come to the table.
Thank you. That will do.
Just going back to Deputy Mayor's question, I just had a follow-up. So just, has there been a noticeable increase in noise from the property that's received an infringement notice?
We've had no call-outs
Very good.
since they got that seizure with the abatement notice. So yeah, when the abatement notice happens, it gives the officers more power. And if they go, then they generally will take the police. And in this instance, there was equipment seized. So I get that equipment back, and it has only been a week.
Less than 72 hours at this stage.
Well, they've got an abatement notice, so they have to apply for
6 months.
Very good. Further questions? I have one, Jeff, just on the environmental and biodiversity work. I just had a question around do you have details of the priority sites that are being worked on?
E3.
Oh, so under Parks and Reserves, so
Yes.
pest control, Blackberry, Broome, and Spelling across priority sites. Up Tangata.
I'm Tangata Forest, working with the community groups, so Forest and Bird and the Tangata Batch group, to look at control in that space. So just on the lowlands of the forestry at the moment, and then next to get further into that. But it is something that we are seeing a little bit more of. So we are working with predatory partisan as well, and we're putting more things into our reserves. Blackberry and Broome is just our reserves areas where we've got things coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's okay. So I just had a follow-up question to that, just around Carter's Reserve, and probably talking 12 months to 24 months ago, a question was raised just Has Doc been out there
Yes.
to start working on the Blackberry and so forth, which was starting to take over?
Yeah, so recall council asked me to write a letter to DOC based on Carter's Reserve, and I did do that. Response back from them, which indicated it was on the list, but it was dealing with competing priorities. And I do know that shortly after my letter, there was a cleanup that occurred at Carter's Reserve, particularly around the car park area and that initial footpath, the raised footpath. But I think you're absolutely right. That was possibly 24 months ago, and it's quite well, but that's now grown back.
First and Bird are also moving down and as well, doing the best they can, but they're just improve with declining years as well.
Thank you. Question?
Yeah, I just had a question on the page 26. It talks about there's going to be a Paul Whenua that's going to be unveiled in Matariki weekend. Do we have a cost to council for that?
Yeah, this is included in our budget. So it'll be the second one that we're going to so I think it's under 10.
Further questions? Okay. We'll move to the recommendations, of which there's 4. Are you happy if I take those together, or do you want me to take them individually? Do you want to give? I know we talked about
receive the report first as individual, and then the remainder.
Okay. So I'll move that we receive the report. We have a seconder. Thank you, councillor Round. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay. 2, 3 and 4. Agrees to bring forward 800,000 of the 26-27 budget as discussed in the report to allow continuation of work. Agrees to the transfer of 540,362 from backflow prevention budget to the water supply network renewal budget, and agrees to the transfer of 132,230 from condition assessment budget to the water supply network renewal budget. I'm happy to move those. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gallen, all in favour? Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. 8.2, Destination Wairarapa Quarterly Report. Aaron Roger, welcome.
You want to cut a couple? Do you want to get this?
Yes, to say that I'm not alone this time. So you can't, you can ask hard questions. I've got someone to answer them. I think that if we look at you're looking at Q2, which goes to December. I think if we look a little beyond that, or that's not the reporting time, during December and early January, things weren't so hot. Weather-wise and tourism-wise, but we're seeing a pretty steady growth during late January and into February. So we're rather hoping that things are going to look considerably better at the end of next quarter. But Anna will tell you about all the other exciting things that have been going on.
Thanks, Roger. This reporting period was October, November, December, which was an incredibly busy time for us, but also for the region, and rightly so. Best in Travel, Lonely Planet, here is the actual book, the global book, that has the Wairarapa featured in it. There we go there. And we achieved that accolade, obviously, before all these other experiences around the world, but most importantly, before anyone else in New Zealand. And it's something that will probably never happen to this region ever again. And I'm just doing a little show and tell, because we should all be very proud of this. This was presented to, not to us, because nobody represented the Wairarapa. This was in London. It was presented at a function in London.
You told me.
I know. I know. mean, somebody surely had an auntie they were visiting over Christmas time, that we could have sent somebody to this function. In the end, because the Minister of Tourism came here, we asked her if she could organise someone from the consulate to go pick this up on our behalf, which they dutifully did, and then sent it home with one of their ambassadors over the Christmas period. And I've just received this in my hot little hands, and we should all be very proud of this, because I don't think you'll see one of these again. The stargazing opportunity that this brings to our region is massive. When you think that 80% of the world cannot see the Milky Way, we take it for granted, and people really want to see something like that. Awe and wonder is what sort of people describe to me. And Lonely Planet picked us not because we have everything perfect. It's because we're heading in the right direction, and that's what people want to go visit in the future. So with that in mind, I expect in the future our international visitor numbers will continue to grow. And of course, as we all know, international visitors, they stay longer and they spend more. And we want more of that. Moving on to then the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail, which is something the Minister of Tourism also supported. She announced soon after this, she was making the decision, Steve, when we were in that room with her that day, she was making the decision of whether Classic New Zealand Wine Trail would get the $1 million to market into Australia. Timely, very timely that she was with us, and she was clearly impressed by all, and put a big tick. And along with Hawke's Bay, ourselves, Wellington and Marlborough, we've had almost $1 million in order to spend in direct consumer marketing, to tell them about what we have here in the Wairarapa and along the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail, which is 80% of New Zealand's wine growing area. We've even impressed Tourism New Zealand. So I was in there on Friday, along with my chums from Hawke's Bay, Marlborough and Wellington, presenting the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail and the opportunities for visitors and what we have, particularly obviously in the Wairarapa in terms of accommodation and great facilities and transport and all the rest of it, and our wine region. And they were just going, this is incredible. That's Tourism New Zealand's job. We have been converting sales. 1,000 tickets were sold over 3 days to Australians to get them to come to Classic New Zealand Wine Trail. They lapped them up. So this money that we've been given, we're just showing even Tourism New Zealand, when you've got a proposition that people really like, and it has the stargazing. It's all about stargazing, wine and food for those international travellers. If it lands well, people really, really enjoy it. And over these last few weeks, I've been going around various presentations, whether it's Rimataka Cycle Trail, which is one of the great rides, or whether it's in conjunction with Classic New Zealand Wine Trail, or talking about Lonely Planet. So many people, when I tell them what you can do, and where you can stay, and things you can see, whether it's hiking, cycling, wine, food, accommodation, you automatically have them every single time. In 2 weeks' time, I fly to Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane for exactly the same reason, talking to key tourism trade people who book holidays to send people here. One of the key examples is I was doing this presentation, and this guy said to me afterwards, he said, God, I'd love that. He said, I've been wanting to go to Wairarapa for ages. And he said, I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've been doing a bit of research. You have inspired me to go out and book. I'm going to make sure I'm going this weekend. And I went, that's awesome. That's cool. With Lonely Planet, some of the key metrics we got out of that, and I've got the big number because I forget big numbers at times. This campaign, global audience reach of 272 million. Something 272 million people know about the Wairarapa. Now, not all of them are going to want to come here. Not all of them have New Zealand as a destination in mind. But like this guy, if they've been thinking about coming to New Zealand, if they've been researching a bit about how to get there, if they're thinking about, well, where am I going to stay? What am I going to visit? What are the sort of things that I can do? All of a sudden, those people have heard about the Wairarapa. And if those few people who are at that place that are ready to do what they want to do to book their travel, and they go, this book has solidified, that's where I want to go and that's what I want to do, that's going to be great for us, because you've got Urla, you've got Star Safari. You've got so many cool things, Whiti Manuka. You've got all sorts of these people who actively work in that international market. And it's really exciting. You can see I'm buzzed because this is a big process. This is like winning the Oscars in tourism. This really is. And it's like, you know, it's one of those moments we should really.
Who's going to display it?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I thought that'd be a bit difficult.
In the Wairarapa Event Centre?
I think, yeah, we'll go for that.
You have to have security like the World Cup.
Yeah. So any questions at all?
And perhaps one of the other numbers that I'm quite impressed with is the EVA that we got out of this.
Yes, so EVA, so you would have all hopefully seen this report.
There's a link to it in your.
Yes, there was a link to that, but also there was a printed version or a PDF version as well. So the EVA, so that number was also large. That was 4.169 million. So an EVA is, AVE, advertising equivalent value. So if we, Destination Wairarapa, was to pay for advertising globally to promote that we're in this book, we would have had to have paid 4.169 million for that pleasure. Clearly, we don't have that sort of money, never will. And this is just another major bonus that the awareness out there is outstanding. And you can expect people may not turn up next year because they've seen or heard about this, may not be the year after, but certainly in the future, because the way that people think about it, if you think of your own international travels, you think, oh, I'd love to go to that country, and you start dreaming and do a bit of researching, and then you go work out the flights and what is the cost, and then you drill down to where you're going to stay, what you're going to see, what you're going to do, and then when you get here, what are you going to eat, drink? And that can take a long time. And at different points, you'll get motivated because somebody you meet who's been to that place and they excite you. You read something, you see an advertisement, suddenly there's a flight sale comes up, bang, you're right. That's how the process goes, and it's a long burn. But we're on that road, and we're going to be doing good.
Can I just ask, what's the status of our tourism operators? Are we growing more operators? Are they staying the same? How's our dark skies going? Are they responding to this marketing?
Yes.
And therefore we're growing tourism in the area?
That's a very good question. It's a hard environment for any business at the moment. Cost of living and inflation and food costs and all the things that we as individuals are also finding challenging. Those businesses in tourism or those businesses in any sector are also facing, and that's day to day. And so remembering that, of course, our major market is domestic, 80% of our market and 85% actually is domestic. So we're reliant on these domestic visitors to keep the lights on. It's that corner and dairy analogy. You've got to have your locals going out and about. What we do know from the numbers is, yes, spend is down, but visitation is flat. It's remaining the same. People are still coming. They're just not spending. So they're doing it tough, just like everybody else. They're doing it tough. And they're not able to grow. We're talking about consents. At least there's been a lift. Businesses, building more rooms in their hotel or doing more stuff around their property or more tourist attraction things that people can spend money on isn't happening. However, by growing the international market and more international visitors coming, which they are, those numbers are growing, they are getting something in their pocket, and those numbers are only going to get bigger. And we want that trajectory to continue to go up to help when the times are tough, to help keep the lights on and the employees employed.
In terms of dark skies, because that's our new baby.
Yes.
Are you seeing growth in that area? I mean, one of the good things about dark skies, it should result in more overnight stays as opposed to just daytime tourism.
Yeah.
Any updates there?
Certainly internationally we are. As you can, Matt Pereira, he was an extra tourist who came over in the Christmas period. And
so the low spenders in.
It's a conversion. He stayed over and he went to Star Safari. So there is increased awareness and people are coming. Actually, Matt and I, we sit on the Dark Sky Steering Group, and in this quarter, which is not what we're reporting on currently, we had a Dark Sky Steering Group meeting, and we're talking about that product development. And together, we're working on bringing somebody into the region to help those businesses take it up that next level. So intervene at the right place to take some businesses up so that they are export ready, international focused businesses. So it's happening.
Yeah, because right now we've got a real push internationally on dark sky.
Yep.
This is the time to capitalise on.
100%. And that's what we've been talking about, the steering group, is that, we've got to have more export ready product. Currently, we only have officially Star Safari. So we need to work on that area just to as you said, to capitalise on it. And that's where the steering group, we're fully focused on that, and we'll be working on getting some businesses export ready sooner rather than later, fingers crossed.
And all councils are on board with you, aren't they? In terms
Yes, yeah. So
of you up or anything?
when it comes to dark sky, it's a unanimous decision, or
Support.
yeah, they're 100% behind it.
Okay, thanks.
Questions? Further questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, so you mentioned that 85% is domestic tourism, but the dark sky, it sounds like that's skewed more towards the international tourism. Is there much appetite domestically for that dark sky? So obviously this Lonely Planet is probably not so much domestic, but are we finding that people are coming from cities to see the stars? Is that happening?
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, Matt's one of them who's come out. But I think the really cool thing I've noticed with the whole Dark Sky Reserve and the sanctuaries and all sorts of things, that you can go see and do in New Zealand at different levels. It allows people it brings out the inner geek, is what I call it. So lots of people are amateur astrophotographers. They might like astrology. They might like the idea that there's planets and moons and there's extraterrestrials out there. There's a lot of people, and it surprised me how many people love to look down this telescope at the moon or the stars or watch an aurora. This phenomenon allows people to explore further into probably an area that we've never really delved into so much. And so domestically, absolutely, it's happening. The interesting thing with domestic visitors is that they can see the Milky Way, come to the Wairarapa, and they can just see it there. And when they want to learn more, that's when they'll pay some money. But we've got to provide them the opportunity to learn in the way that they want to learn, whether it's a multicultural story about our region, whether it's because you've got the dark sky, you can sleep better. Somebody's promoting health and wellness. Whether it's, I had a guy who inquired about running a marathon that's going to start on the 1st of January at night time under the dark sky, reserve with the stars twinkling. I mean, everybody, there's an angle for everybody, and it's very, I'm going to say wholesome. It's a really nice tourist attraction thing. I don't even know. It's an asset that we have that we just take for granted. But even coming out from Wellington City, and you look at the stars and you go, wow, it's so much better out here. There's domestically, there's absolutely an opportunity, but people consume it differently to international tourists who are here once in a lifetime, and they want to see an aurora, or they want to see a shooting star, and the experts need to take them on that because they're only here once to do it.
And the advantage that we have in our Dark Sky Reserve, it's so close to major populations. And so, whereas if you go to Tekapo, it's a long trek to get to their dark sky infrastructure. So we've got that added advantage that we can start building on, so that people are working out that they can come here, stay here overnight, and then go off home in the morning.
I'm interested also in cycling. Are you keeping an eye on that in terms of what the take up is. It's
Yeah.
a bit more established, although not finished, obviously, but a bit more established in the dark sky. I see that as a fairly good growth areas am I accurate in my assessment?
Interesting you should say that. I was at a Ramataka Cycle Trail, so it's a great ride meeting in Wellington yesterday, and we were briefed by all sorts of groups from Trans Metro to the new cycle trail, or it's not actually, it's about resilience down at Wellington Harbour, Tupuana, I think they call it, and all these new cycle trails from the capital city that is going to link up here in the Wairarapa in the next 12 months. So the one that's from Naurunga Gorge, roughly, that's where it kind of starts, that comes out to Petone. Petone foreshore has also been sort of refreshed. And then from Naurunga into Thorndon Quay, there's a cycle trail there. So Wellington City Council also updated on their progress. They've got one last piece to do, which is Bunny Street, which means you'll literally be able to go, I think, from sort of the Michael Fowler Centre, the library area. You could cycle from there, currently all the way to Greytown.
That's a long trip.
Yep. But there were providers around there. There were also accommodation providers that are interested. There's opportunity for business in that area. The other thing is people will consume a ride how they want to. One of the most popular parts of the Ramataka Cycle Trail is actually from Maymoon to Greytown. It's not necessarily the Ramataka Cycle Trail, but it's the Ramataka Cycle Trail, which is a great ride that people go, oh, what's this? This is one of these cool 23 great rides around New Zealand. I don't want to go from Petone to here or wherever. I want to go from there to Greytown, stay the night. Once Transmetro get their new train lines up and going, 2028, there'll be more frequent trains. They can get 6 bikes, I believe, on trains during the weekend. So tourism is better serviced. It's all this cool infrastructure that's happening underneath in the Greater Wellington region that is going to play into our hands.
But I do agree that actually the trains are going to play a big part in that, whereby you could get on at Woodville, get off at Maymoon and then cycle back and then get to your car again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great asset.
Yes. And we were talking with some of the operators about how you can, have a tour that comes over here, they stay overnight. All of them have vans. You can then take them up to Star Safari, have an experience, bring them back, then they do another cycle trail, maybe around the Vines, maybe out to Ula. There's heaps of options.
Right, team, I'm going to
Sorry.
we carry on. Do we have any further questions for Anna? Right, we have one recommendation, and that's that we receive the report. I'm happy to move that. We have a seconder.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Casey. All in favour?
Aye. Yeah. Would you like a copy
Thank you.
to pay for your library?
If you're offering, if the library doesn't have one yet, that would be fantastic.
And look, there's a
Thank
Pace
you.
New Zealand Wine Trail little fridge sticker for the wine fridge.
Thank you both. Well, congratulations on the award again.
You can leave that award here.
It's all of our awards. Thank you.
Okay, we are on to 8.3, Wellington NZ quarterly report. Got Matt, and we've got Natasha, and we've got Anna. Welcome.
It's a bit of a hard act to follow, isn't it? Anna and I share offices with the Destination Wairarapa teams, and I can tell you that they definitely did not have a coast into Christmas. I've been flat out working across these things that I've just reported on. So thank you guys. Awesome. It's been a lot of work. I won't talk too much to the report that you guys received for the period up till December. I'll just touch on a few things that have happened since that point. Starting with inside the Wellington NZ activity report, we spoke about a dog show film production that was filmed in the Wairarapa towards the end of last year. Our screen office have reported that there was a $60,000 per day spend in local businesses here during that time. They were shooting here for a week, so that's a pretty awesome figure to have going into our local businesses. Beyond that, the future options piece of work, we've now confirmed 4 options that we're going to explore. 2 of them are existing farm systems that we've got here in the Wairarapa, but there are opportunities to add some value there, so wool and olives. The 3rd one is, again, it's existing, but we've got the seed and grain facility hopefully coming online soon, so making sure that there's consistency for that operation when it does become live. And then the other one is looking at a new industry that could potentially be an option for Wairarapa, and that is kiwi fruit. So that's based on signals from Zespri. So they're the 4 areas. We're very new in exploring what those look like. So hopefully we'll be able to come back to you and let you know where they're landing. The capability boost, again, in food and fibre. We are just onboarding the businesses and what have you to start that pilot. We've spoken to a lot of industry bodies, government entities and whatnot, and everybody's very happy to see the different approach that we're taking to support local food and fibre businesses. So there'll be a lot of eyes across the nation on that. The shared narrative piece of work, Anna's team leading the scoping up of that piece of work. And then the final Why Host workshop being delivered by Business Wairarapa is going to be a buddy to boss workshop in April. I'll also just let you know that the Case for Action report, which is the WEDS funded report delivered by the Water Resilience Governance Group, is soon to be published on our WEDS website as well. So I'm not sure who's received that, but it is quite a significant potential for our region. So $1.5 billion and an extra 3,800 additional work staff by 2050 if we are water resilient. So watch out for that. I'll open for questions.
Thanks, Natasha. Questions, Natasha?
Simon had a question.
Mhm.
You had a question.
Other question?
It's your turn.
Oh, you did too? Yes, Wainawa.
Oh, yeah. You recall the question?
I do.
Yeah.
So yes, Wainawa. We are, I'm waiting for Stu to come back to Jeff to confirm that we will undertake that piece of work for you guys. Yeah, we just had to get approval from our steering group and the other councils to proceed, so.
So the question is, what is happening? And I'll draft the scope of work for the WEDS team to investigate the revenue side of the Wainawa water storage project, which was the questions that council asked. So we'll get the WEDS team to look at current demand. So what could we sell today to surrounding landowners and those in the Wainawa, and also look at future demand.
Yeah.
They'll also look at pricing of demand and then do some comparison of the price of water compared to some other water storage projects that are around the country. So they'll bring that information back. That will then inform the financial modelling, which we'll be able to understand a whole lot better the cost of the project, the revenue side of things for current demand based on sensitivity, and the impact that there may be left over from that project. So, with being our lead economic development agency, I put them to the work. I want them to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Just leading on from that, going back to that water resilience you mentioned before, that report, I read the report, and I mean, it's got some stunning GDP growth, you know, if we put that together. Was that ever put forward, or did you have the time to put it forward to the Infrastructure Commission? Because, like, it kind of needs to be there to actually see any light of day. Is it with the Infrastructure Commission, or is it outside of it?
The report has only just been published, so it's fresh off the press, but Yenny Marks,
It should be another round though, right?
yeah, she has been speaking to those over the hill about it, and everybody's very interested in
You
it.
read and you hear all the announcements of the,
Yeah.
you know, everything's at the back of the queue, isn't it?
Sort of a follow-on question to Simon's around WEDS taking on a chunk of work looking into Wainawa. Does that include not just figuring out the demand that could be there, but actually selling the idea to neighbouring councils, for example, the iwi, the different stakeholders that could be investors, is that part of what would be in that scope of work?
This is, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, this is purely from who would take water from a customer base.
Okay.
Correct. It's a revenue analysis.
Mhm.
So
Not a sales pitch.
not a sales pitch.
Okay.
So I think your question is a valid one, which is around the ownership,
Mhm.
not of the customer. And so I am still having those conversations with our neighbours and with iwi partners around the ownership structure, which is separate from this demand analysis of who are the customers.
Okay.
That demand analysis be something that you could share when you're having these conversations around ownership? Like that might be interesting for other stakeholders to understand what the potentials are, and that might pique some interest in that model. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it'll feed into the financial model, which will then interest the potential stakeholders.
There's quite a lot of, I suppose, uncertainty in a way to do such a report because, like I was talking with Steve before, there's no dynamic pricing on water, which could happen in the future. And if there was dynamic pricing on water, like in summer when there's hardly any water, that the price goes right up. That then might make someone think, I should actually go on this 1 hour water project would be a lot better. If that doesn't happen, you don't get your buyer, you know what I mean? So I don't know how much flexibility you've got in looking at all those different scenarios. It's a bit of stick as well as carrot. Yeah.
So at this stage,
Myself, yeah.
we seem to have, we have detracted a little bit from nets into 1 hour. But there is essentially a floor for water pricing, which is free, because a lot of users currently get it free. And there is also a cap in terms of the price that council has set for the cost of potable water in 1 hour. So the WEDS team are working between the floor and the cap with that pricing model. It is a 50% current demand, 50% speculation as to who might take up new demand. But it is, that's the sort of thing that we need to have a discussion about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks.
It may not be entirely divorced from kiwi fruit idea.
Land use change is a key part of it, and I know Tash and the WEDS team have experience in this from Canterbury. Where there is water available, particularly immediately surrounding land area, that land use change is something that we would encourage and is highly likely.
Yeah, everybody says access to secure water is the number one barrier to alternative land uses here in the Wairarapa.
Yeah, I just had a question. Page 67, it looks like a photo from a newspaper or something. Oh, yes.
Yes, yep.
Wairarapa Times Age.
Yep.
It just mentions that there's going to be an event in March at Wainawa and that the project will have started, which I don't believe is the case.
Yes, so we have had, so it's the Wairarapa Water User Society that's leading that work. The second event is actually tonight. But yes, the third event has been shifted to another location. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, we have diverted away from now. Yeah,
so
thanks.
Any questions? No? Yeah.
Wait till it's due.
We've got one recommendation, that's that we've received a report at the moment. Is that are you moving that?
Oh, yes.
Deputy Chair? We have a seconder? Councillor Casey, all in favour?
So you don't want to be an option.
Against? Carried. Thank you, team. Quarterly performance report for the period ending 31st December.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I guess we've broken from tradition a little bit and created a new report that encompasses both the financial and non-financial performance. and we believe this now aligns better and probably as a good precursor to the annual report. Some additions to the financial information that we've got there is that under each activity centre, we've now got a summary revenue and expenditure line, which sits adjacent to each activity centre. And I guess important to note is that the quarterly performance is a year-to-date accumulative total or indicator. So it's not per quarter per se, but as a year-to-date accumulative. It's a little bit of a work in progress at the moment. Some of the KPIs have not quite been populated yet, so those will be forthcoming as the information comes to hand, such as the community survey, etc. And some of the transport numbers are still being worked on and developed at the moment. I think, yep, it's
the intent is to provide council with guidance as to how we're tracking through the year, rather than get to the end of the year with either our financial metrics or our non-financial metrics with a surprise. So Mark, Jerry, and all of the team, the IT, have been working hard on pulling this together. So first cut, but I'm very, very grateful to Jerry, Mark, and the team, and who have pulled this together, and certainly comms for the layout and design, which you will note reflects our annual report.
Very happy to take any further questions from anybody.
Councillor Lawrence.
I don't really have a question, just a couple of comments. One is, I think it's a great report, and because this goes out to the community, anybody who cares to check on our agendas, God help them. I think that this will give the community a very clear idea of how we're going, and I think that's very valuable. And the other thing, I've said this since I've been on council, I think our budgeting is really good. There's I notice there's $190,000 of unbudgeted expenditure in here, but then it turns out to be the theft of the Belvedere Hall. So it's a non-cash item. So congratulations, that's all I've got.
Thanks, Councillor Lawrence. Any further questions? Councillor.
Questions. Page 72, talking about the significant weed growth in the water races required additional time and maintenance activities. All of that, though, is fully funded by the water race users. Just clarifying. Second question, page 77, talking about across all activities, service requests are acknowledged within 1 working day, and we're sitting at 36.79% and the target's over 95. I just wondered if you could talk around what's the plan of attack there.
It's relatively consistent with prior years. So the benchmark we've got is pretty tough. We are also we're down a staff member who's had an injury. That tree fell on her head in the last storm, and so she's recovering from that and slowly coming back up to full-time hours. So we have been down in that area, but we've now changed the team, and Sri Dewberry Natwiri is team leader in there, and her role is to improve the service performance. We're also changing some of the staff reporting lines so that staff that predominantly spend their time dealing with administration and at work may also be part of the team that is resolving these so we get a consistent response.
Okay. Because when it says they're acknowledged, that literally could just be like an AI response or something, like an automated something back to them.
Yes.
Not asking for anything more than.
Correct. At the moment, we're not using AI. They're all either dealt with by the team.
Yeah.
So they'll come in via our info mailbox, or they'll come into desk, or they'll phone in. Will be handled manually at this stage.
Okay. And I had one other thing, page 78. You've talked about a challenge being vandalism across the parks and reserves being an ongoing challenge. I know we're upgrading the Carrington Park toilets, but what else are we doing to try and discourage the vandalism? I see they've closed the public toilets up in Masterton because of the vandalism. And it keeps kind of being raised with us without a plan of action or any real reporting on the cost to us. And I was just wondering what's happening in that space. Yeah, because it just keeps coming up, but nothing's happening.
Good question.
And just to add to that, I think at the last council meeting or maybe at policy and projects, a question was asked about what figure are we actually spending on vandalism.
Yeah, so that was discussed at the workshop that we had around.
Good to have it in a council meeting at some point. Councillor Casey.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, page 86, just to more understanding of just some of the things there. We've got 3.7 on transportation. I assume transportation is just essentially roads. Is there any other makeup of transportation? Okay. The other is community support at 3.5. What is that?
Community support.
Yes.
So
Everything's ended.
Everything. And should it be broken down a bit more, or?
So it includes facilities, library,
I see.
swimming pool, event centre, parks, reserves.
Okay. Right, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Burns.
I just had a question about regulatory and planning on page 79. Just about the deficit, 162,000, and there's just an explanation around consultancy costs associated with the district plan being the main contributor, and that these costs are being on charge to the two other Wairarapa district councils where possible. I just wanted to understand what those costs were a little bit more and how we're on charging, and just to understand that a little bit better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So with the district, there's an agreed funding model that's set up. So MBC pays 44.5%. SWD says 30%, and we're 25.5%. But what we do, it was agreed. So you see, we take a main invoicing in. So all the bills come into us, and that goes under that consultancy budget. So we pay all those bills, but they're split out.
Yeah.
And then we have a separate one where we then on charge their components back and recover that cost. So from that budget line, it always shows quite high in the consultancy because of that.
Okay.
But then there is a cost recovery that comes in.
Okay.
Yeah. So it net balances out.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, I did. But I've lost where it was. But it was with regards to assets. The assets figure was several. What page was we at? It was 80 something. There's a big total current assets. So the actuals were 9.3. The annual plan had us at 15. What's the change there?
I guess that you'll see the movement that'll take place during the year. So the annual plan, you're talking about the annual plan at the end of the financial year, or see, it's
yeah,
distorted because it's for the full
thing.
Yes, yeah.
So we had a building burn down or something. Just a comment. I love the inclusion of the non-financial metrics in the report. I think it's great to have that to compare with the actual numbers as well. And it's all laid out beautifully.
Yeah, can I reiterate that? It's a great report. Thanks, Mark, and your team. Any further questions for Mark? Brian, you're being very quiet up there. No questions?
Staying quiet on purpose in case I do feedback. Yeah, I'm right.
Good.
All right. We have one recommendation, and that's that we received the report. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Newman, Deputy Mayor, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, Mark. 8.5. Carrington Park. Linda.
I'd just like to introduce Adele, who's also coming up to support this discussion. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background into how we've got here, which probably wasn't highlighted very well in this report, given that there was a previous report done in June 2025. So last year, June 2025, we brought a council paper up that looked at increasing funding or putting in funding to do the build of Carrington Park. Earlier in the year, we'd received a playground audit that said that some of our equipment was past its end of life and needed to be repaired. We've had significant underinvestment in Carrington Park for quite a few years, with the last major investment being the walking track around the back of Carrington Park in 2011. So we had a workshop in December, and we've gone through the detailed design. So this detailed design was created by WSP and Catherine Hamilton. Catherine Hamilton is a award-winning designer who designed the Margaret Mahy playground down in Christchurch. And sorry, I'm just looking back to my list. So the whole plan that came through from Kāpai with this design was that it was a destination playground. The destination playground was to be that wow factor for Carterton, drive economic development, drive people into our town and have them spending money. The original design was $7.3 million design, and at the time we were seeking funding of $2 million to downscale that and focus that directly onto the skate park and playground area. Since then, we have been going through and we've achieved that. We've downscaled the playground area. We've removed a substantial amount of the equipment, but trying to keep in the core of what the community has asked for. And we've been working with the skate park group. I think Collier's joined online from the skate park group to support this meeting as well. So where we've landed is that we need additional funding to go ahead. So that sits quite heavily in the contingency area. And earlier last year, we had talked about two areas or two options for the skate park, and that was for us to fund a portion of it with the community to continue to fundraise the other portion. At this point, we are build ready. So both the Carrington Park design and the skate park designs are good to go, with an ambitious goal to try and build it this year and have it ready for summer at the end of 2026. However, if we don't increase the funding in this space, we'll have to look at staging the plans. So whether we stage some of the playground equipment area, stage the skate park area, or continue to community fundraise through that. Yeah. So we have been looking at external funding as well. So we've got information around 3 external funders, all of which have funds available. But if we apply for that funding, their funding round dates early February, March, but we wouldn't hear outcomes till May, June of this financial year.
Thanks, Linda. Just a quick question on the funding you just mentioned.
Yep.
If council approves to increase the budget, how does that work with funders if they know that there's already the budget approved by council?
Yeah, I think that's something that we'll have to work through. So I think if we're going to go down the funding avenue. It's going to be trying to get them to come in as in a partnership. With the funding that was originally planned through the original concept when it was a community-led project, it was partnership funding. So they would come in with their portions. So it would just be having those discussions with them as we go through the process.
So I'm not sure if there's something sitting in the background that would include all the interactive stuff which got removed because of their excess cost that could be used
as an additional
with that funding, so that it's not, we're not trying to ask for retrospective thing as such.
So I think what you're talking about there is the towers. So we've got the base one for the towers, and then when WSP were presenting at that workshop, there was the add-ons that we could add on to it. So that funding could be utilised for those add-ons to get all the bells and whistles.
Questions? I have another question. Just stop on page 89. There's one sentence there which is a little bit concerning for me. Well, there's a few things a bit concerning for me, but just where it says an indicative concept of the towers is presented below, however, as they are custom built, the final design may be subject to change. I know we have a contingency in this. How certain are we that we're going to, just based on that sentence, we're going to fit?
Yeah, so we've gone out to 3 playground builders, and they've given us indicative costs. And I think it comes back to how long is a piece of string, and when are we going to pull, when are we going to go with this project? So if we go with this project based on the information that we've had in December, then that'll be closer to the price. If we wait another 6 months or 2 years, obviously the prices are going to be different again. But I think we've got our schedule of pricing. We know what we're doing. When we go out to tender for that, we'll tender out and say, this is what you need to achieve within the schedule of pricing.
Questions? I'm sure there's a number.
Can you clarify for me, just when you talk about community funding, just how is that made up? Is that individuals in the community being gifting something? And if so, is that recognised some way, like they did at Marston when they put palings on, you put your name on and all that sort of stuff?
So we were talking about community funding support, so agencies, so lotteries with community funding, Eastern and Central.
Not direct
community funding.
Wouldn't that be a good idea to chase up as well?
Yes, it can be. And I think we look at that again for those bells and whistles and those add-ons. I think we need to get our core amount of funding that we've got so we can press go on this project and build and update, and then add on key features with communities.
Okay, what about commercial sponsorship? Has that been looked at?
No.
Just to add that the main pool of money that's going to be funding this project comes from the reserves contribution. It's not ratepayer funded. It's a fund set aside purely for capital projects, for new recreational facilities, for the growth of our town. And if we want our town to grow, we need to be able to keep up to date, or we need to be able to provide recreational opportunities for the well-being of our community as it grows.
That's fine in some respects, but we've got to ensure around the table that we're looking at its value for money and so forth, and what that is being spent on. That's, I'm guessing, what we will have to be considering. It's not so much.
I don't think anyone's got objections to the objectives of what you're putting forward, but it's just like with money so scarce, I'm just thinking, has every avenue been looked at in terms of being able to fund it? Are people putting their money where their mouth is? And like we're talking about business being, will grow in the town centre if we have better facilities for families, and you'd think then that would be a source of extra funding would be from those businesses. They haven't been approached, then I don't think the more we can do.
That's a good point, but for me, alongside that, I'd rather the businesses concentrated on doing up their shops
But
rather
again,
than putting money into a park. But that's their decision.
yeah,
Exactly.
at least it should be put to them.
Questions, Councillor Newman?
I quite like your idea of having like the base level of things, and then we can go for funding to get the extra things. And whether we can like specifically target things that funders are looking at, like accessibility, like we don't do the ramp, but the ramp could be a funded thing, could be good. And then on top of that, the extras, yeah, we could go up to the locals and things like that. I think that's a really good idea. My question was just around the skate park, and they were going to put some money in, and what's happening in that space.
Yeah. So the skate park group have always said that they were committed to fundraising. And so when we looked at this originally, we looked at $500,000 of council investment with the community fundraising, the 200,000. And they have been working with Bex and Funding HQ to look at funding plans to continue to do that. I think when we had the workshop with councillors in December, there was conversation around the equity within that, and the do we just go all together or do we not? At this point, if we want to build the project as one cohesive unit, we would probably be looking at staging the skate park area and just doing the run strip. And then the community group would continue to do their fundraising to do the bowl, and that would be at a different stage.
So that figure given to us doesn't include the bowl.
The figure given to you here includes the total cost for delivery of the project with one go.
Okay. Yeah. So hopefully they manage to fundraise and the figure's a little bit less.
So if they fundraise, if
no, because she just said that
no, so the funding that we're asking for here covers the total project. That's everything.
Yeah.
If
The question that we asked ourselves was, why would one part of the community get a whole new playground, whole new park, whole new everything, and that's funded from reserves, and another part of the community are asked to go and fundraise it for themselves because, well, they're skate park users, so we're not doing that. So what we've done is we've come to you and said, actually, that doesn't feel fair for different parts of the community. Let's just put everything on the table and say it'll cost this amount for everything. And they're all part of our community. Whether they're skate park users or playground users or whatever, they're all part of our community. This is a community facility. This is the cost.
Hear that, but I don't think we told them you have to pay for it. I think they said we want this facility and volunteered to go out and fundraise. And this is the first time it's been brought to us that then possibly not going to be doing that. So I just want to highlight that. As far as I was aware.
They are still working towards fundraising at this stage, but I think it was based on the workshop that we had last year with elected members where we started to have those conversations around, is it fair that they are fundraising? So that's why we've included it here as an option, but also it's the start point. So do we want to start this project and do we want to get it out and get it done, or do we want to stage it? And that's the other flip side of that. So if we allocate this additional funding, we've got total project costs and we've got a time frame and we've got build ready designs and we can go. If we're going to look at community, so the community group, the skate park group continuing to do fundraising, then we're going to be looking at staging certain parts of it. The community group will have to fundraise their money for the bowl, and then that's going to come at a later stage.
I'll take a little bit of responsibility for that because I'm pretty sure I raised it at the workshop around that equability, whatever that word is, because I felt that this, as much as the skate park users said we will try, they really wanted it to happen. They suggested they could go out and try and raise 200,000. I felt, has the community said we're going to raise a certain percentage? Because if we ask the community to raise a certain percentage, what would that percentage be alongside the percentage that we're asking the skate park users? And I just felt it was, if we're paying for the park, we should be paying for the skate park as well, which everyone can use.
Only people with skateboards and bikes.
Scooters,
Bikes and
anything.
scooters.
I've often thought that the 200,000 are raising is a bit of a high bar itself.
just to add to that point, you mentioned for skate park users, I was down just kind of a little offside. I was down at the Greytown skate park with our granddaughter who was just on her bike that you use your legs to, didn't have pedals. But then she got off that, she'd had enough of it. And she just started sliding down the slopes and the bowls and everything. There weren't kids there on skateboards using it, but so it's very interactive, not just for skate park users, but for anyone who wants, little kids who wants to have fun on it. So questions?
So we've approved $2 million. The difference between that and where we are now is additional equipment and buildings.
And no funding from no expectation from the skate park user group that they will contribute.
That's 200,000. Do we have an idea of what we will get for $2 million?
What we would get for $2 million. So we've based this and the scoping of this playground on what the community had already done. So
yes.
WSP and Kapai Carterton had already invested around $200,000 into the design work, and they'd already done all the community engagement. So yes, we can go back and look at off-the-shelf playground equipment and replace like for like and keep things replacing old with new and keep our current footprint, or we can invest into what our community has said and the investment that's already gone into the design work and get that destination playground. So
because I guess what's in the back of my mind is it possible not to consult, but just to engage the community saying, here's a $2 million deal, here's a $2.8 million deal. What do you want?
Well, so 2.8 if the council's paying.
Well, they may not.
Because they have to pay for it. But it's not
They-
affecting, there's no effect on their rates.
It doesn't cost them ratepayer anymore, but it certainly narrows down the options that council has to spend that money on other things.
Yeah, there's an opportunity cost to that.
It was probably for me when this was put, I felt there's a little bit of confusion that's come forward out of that, because back when I think it was 2.1 figure was put to us, that included the park and the skate park. But we've got to a point now where it's 2.1 is just for the park, and then the skate park's on top of that, plus a little bit.
So the original report in June last year was asking for $2 million. What we had said at that time is we would like to look at 1.5 for the playground, 500 for the skate park. And then the costing has come in from then, and that has changed the amount.
The difference is really that things cost more than we were expecting.
Yes.
Since the workshop in December.
The paper.
So the paper in June.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can see your point about asking the community. I think the flip side to that is, as you say, things cost more since June, and what I'm hearing you say, Glenda, is we've got like a shovel-ready project that's ready to go, and probably just my worry would be that we want to get this project done, and if we go back and tinker with design and ask the community again, how long does that take? In the meantime, does inflation happen again? And then it's like you're in a bit of a cycle. So, it's tricky to do the value for money thing and community consultation thing. But on the other hand, I think it is a really valid project in the centre of Carterton, which contributes a lot to Carterton as a whole and Carterton community. So I can see the argument for getting it done.
Can we discuss, or are we still questions? Comments?
I think this discussion.
Oh, okay, let's go. Okay, so even with my questions, I still think it's a really, really cool project to have in Carterton. I think the fact that we're discussing amalgamation and all of that means that we should really be getting Carterton into a really good position and doing stuff that's really important for our community that probably won't be prioritised if we did amalgamate. I think the economic benefits about having people stop in Carterton as they come through the Wairarapa would be awesome. I think having a safe place for our kids to hang out, and the fact we identified last week when we were doing that environmental scan, like we do need more young people in Carterton, to keep them in Carterton. And so I think it's a really cool concept. And I do support spending the money now, doing a really good job of it and getting something done that our community can really enjoy as soon as possible. Yeah, I'm looking, I wasn't around when the decision was made in June. But generally the idea that we had these reserves building up that weren't getting spent seemed silly. And I thought it seemed like a smart investment doing the 2 million on a park. That was going to be something that would be a bit of a feature, seemed cool. However, when I'm looking at all the things that have been taken out of this plan, removal of sand play, water play, the number of play components, reduced planting and hardscape, repurpose, there's just a lot of things that have been pulled out of this plan, which make it.
That might have been the $7.8 million.
Yeah. But so just as someone who spends a lot of time every day at the park, like I know it's old and outdated and there's tripping hazards and there's broken fences and it's not great. But I'm just seeing a really, really cool modern design that on paper looks awesome. I just want to know how many swings there are, how many slides there are. Like I want to see that there's going to be stuff for my kids to do, not just a cool, colourful scape kind of thing for them to run around on. And my concern is that because we've gone for this designer playground that the Margaret Mayhew one, I've been to the one in Christchurch, it's really cool. But it's like an art piece, right? It's not a park, it's an artistic kind of expression of creativity. And that doesn't really tick the box in terms of just stuff to do and play on necessarily. It looks cool and people would look at it and go, oh, that's interesting. But in terms of practicality, how much stuff is there for kids to do at the park? And I can see a cool design and it looks awesome. But I don't know if there's going to be a lot for us to do there. And the cost has gone up significantly. And I don't feel comfortable with it pushing up more past that $2 million mark. And I'm looking at the skate park user group and I'm going, well, if it had to push up to 2.1, maybe I'd be comfortable, but that would be cutting off the skate park element in my mind, because I just don't think the full picture is palatable. We've got so many other things that reserves funds potentially need to be used for, like chopping down dodgy trees that could fall on people. That would absolutely.
Sorry, reserves funds can't do trees. There's a specific thing that we can do with the reserves funds, and it's around new and improvements to existing. So the likes of maintenance and tree repairs and stuff like that, we can't apply the reserve fund to that.
What about if we had to do, we discussed the fact that there was that whole line of those fancy special trees that would potentially risk and would need to get someone in to come and look at it. That isn't something.
That is something that we need to do, but that is something that the reserve contribution fund can't pay for.
Right.
That's the tricky part with the reserve contribution fund. Yeah.
Okay, so different angle. We have other parks around Carterton that would be missing out on funding upgrades and changes to their parks. It would be, putting all our eggs in one basket, so to speak, as well. Yeah.
Part of that conversation, I think it was put to us quite early on, is that hopefully some of that equipment can be repurposed if it's at the park and other parks.
Yeah.
So that conversation has been had. I've got just a question, but Councillor Della, happy to take your question. If everyone on the table can be quiet while he talks. Thanks, Brian.
You think, Steve? I'm disappointed in the skate park group that said that they were going to raise this 200,000 there, and all of a sudden it's come back to us that they're not. I'd like to know how much money they have raised and whether that will be available. But also, I'm a little bit with Grace that we earmarked $2 million for that out of the reserves fund, and I would not like us to see dipping into other avenues of monies to finance the rest of it. I think we've got to try and stay within that budget if we can. Thank you.
Can I answer? Certainly. Thank you, Councillor Della. Just to answer your first question on the skate park group, that was officers who have put it all together in one paper. that wasn't the skate park users group saying they were no longer going to raise funding or they didn't want to raise funding. That was our decision to put it all into the paper and just give the total cost to council, given the conversation we'd had previously about some parts of the community getting a new park and not paying for it, and other parts of the community being asked to fund. So that was our decision, wasn't the skate park's decision.
And the two reserves are both associated with the reserves ones.
And the depreciation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the extra money we're talking about is earmarked for reserves, either depreciation or contributions, is that correct?
Yes. And the reserves fund reserve, I know it sounds silly, but it can only be used.
Yep.
The reserves fund can only be used for a growth project, so it's designed for improving our facilities. It's not able to be used for maintaining the facilities. Whereas the depreciation fund is there for maintenance. So we are anticipating that two things will occur. One, we will receive some new development contributions over the year, and that development contributions fund will grow. Where that's not possible, we'll use some of the depreciation reserve to replace and maintain our existing equipment. So those are both designed for renewing, refreshing the assets that we own.
Thanks, Jeff. Councillor Casey.
Yeah, so going back to what I was mentioning before, I think, like if we've already committed 2 million, that's fine. That's sort of, we've agreed to that. But now it's a shortfall. I still can't see why we can't go back to the community, to commercial users, all those sort of people, and say, here's our shortfall. If you want the park, we need to reach this amount, and we need your support. We've got rates cap coming, we've got stranded assets coming, all those sorts of things. We have been put on notice by the government on spending on frivolous things. I don't call this a frivolous thing, but I do think we need to show to the community that we are being cautious about expenditure. We've reached the limit that we'd agreed to, so community, come and help us, right? I think we should at least try that, rather than just say, okay, well, we roll over and we give more. Where's the end on that?
It's around.
How many of our other parks and reserves will make capital input into the near future? Nothing significant.
Nothing significant, but
Sparks Parks recently had some changes implemented. So we changed the car park area in the front of Sparks Park because that was an issue. Ngā Tāwhai Reserve has had a significant upgrade in the last year and significant planting. Morton's Reserve has been picked up by Keep Carterton Beautiful, KCBC, and some of the equipment that we've had from other parks has been moved down to Morton Reserve. There is a small park on Brooklyn Road that that's got a little bit of a cycle track and that kind of thing. But at this stage, Memorial Park, we're currently having a tree removal that will occur today, but most of our other parks are in really good shape. This tends to be the poster child park for Carterton because it is on the main street and it's close to the public toilets and the supermarket, so it does tend to get a lot more traffic from those who are passing through than it does other ones. My children remember the park when we were passing through going up to Nana's.
Yeah.
Just looking at page 90, talking about the costing for stage 1 play space and stage 2 skate area. I just hearing the talk around the table and the discussion, I wonder if there could be a compromise around going ahead with the stage 1, which is estimated subtotal 1.8 million with 20% contingency takes it just over to 2 million, which was what was agreed to. And then stage 2 doing some more work around that, especially because there's a little bit of, I feel like there's a little bit of confusion with the skate park group and how they could contribute, maybe getting a bit more information from them, like how are they going on their fundraising? Is that something that is, is feasible? Because I do think, I do think it's important to be really prudent with our money, but also this is money that's earmarked for this sort of work, and I think it is central to our town, and I do think it's money well spent to actually grow and develop our town and attract families. And we did that the workshop last week and looked at the statistics, and there's that gap in our demographics around those people in that mid stage of life. So I think there's a real value to this project, and I wonder if that's a way to move forward on the main part of the park.
The conversations. For me, I feel like the skate park group were brought into this because early on, 2.1 million was set aside or suggested, and 500,000 of that was towards the skate park. I would hate to see us just push that to the side. Oh, sorry guys, we're not going to do your part of the park. I feel if we're going to do this, we either do it as per what's put in front of us today, or we put this on hold and we ask for something else. So I think conversations, and this is going to have to occur around the table before we get to our recommendations. I've got another question, Glenda, just around the skate park itself. In the workshop that we had in December, a question was asked, how does this compare to Greydowns in size? And I'm really curious to understand if anything was brought back as to the comparison in size, because Greydown looks to be a very similar size to that. And theirs cost 1.5 million.
Yeah.
So I just...
Stage 1.
Stage 1, that doesn't include stage 2 and 3. So if we're looking at something around the same size and it's only 700 something thousand, I'm like...
Ours is probably quite a bit smaller than Greytowns. It's our current footprint of our current skate park, and then just coming out slightly into that current basketball area.
So reusing a lot of the concrete surface area.
Yeah. So I went down to Greytown a couple of weeks ago as well and had a look because I hadn't seen it. And ours will be significantly smaller.
Did you steal the equipment?
I did not steal the equipment. But yeah, sorry. Yeah. Smaller, but I can get it exact and do a comparison. Yeah.
It would be good to know, because I know that was a question at the workshop, just to kind of get an idea, like, is it half the size or is it 3/4 of the size? It just gives a little bit of a...
Can I refer to Collier, because he probably knows the answer to that. Collier, are you online? Could you jump on? Hi.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Collier Charlotte. I'm part of the Skate Park user group. We've been active since 2021. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person today. I'm a bit crook. Just been enjoying the discussion. Obviously, lots of things to consider. Obviously, we really value the skate park as a space for people of Carterton to enjoy, especially the younger generation. And obviously, I often go to the park and I see the current skate park as one of the most used areas within the park. We kind of got together in 2021 as the Carrington Park project was kicking off, because we saw that the skate park was a part of the park that hadn't been included initially in the project. And obviously the whole Carrington Park project took off with Car Park kind of leading that. But I'd just like to say, as a member of the community, and this whole Carrington Park project, we're the only part of the community that's still, you know, there right now, kind of pushing for Carrington Park project, and the skate park I see as part of that project. But yeah, in terms of the comparison to the Greytown Park, it's definitely smaller. I couldn't tell you how much smaller, but yeah, it's definitely smaller. And you like Glenda mentioned, the current footprint of the skate park will the new plan for the skate park is that the current footprint will actually get a little bit bigger, but not much bigger. But we'll actually be pulling the skatable surfaces away from the two best trees in the park, which are that lime tree and there's another tree next to it. So there are some wins in terms of, you know, what's going to be happening with redeveloping the skate park in terms of looking after the biodiversity in the park and the two best trees. Yeah, I'm happy to chip in on any other stuff too.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Further discussion?
Yep. My thought when I knew the report was going to be coming back to us, so I was looking forward to seeing what was included. I feel like our workshop that we had in December, there was, you know, we initially had the designer or the park, was there for the first 3/4 of the meeting, and then they left, and then we got to have a discussion without them present, where I felt like there was an appetite around the table to have an alternative plan put to us, where there would be different costings that would be within the 2 million, that wouldn't be bespoke, that would have that bought off the shelf park equipment, and how much of it we could get for our budget. So I'm disappointed that this only has the one option presented to us, because I do feel like we're making a decision with half the information, which makes it tricky. And because it looks so damn pretty, you feel like, oh, this is a good idea. But if we had something to compare it with, that was a park that would be functional and fun and would be a benefit to our community, but wouldn't be a huge jump in that budget. Yeah, I just feel like we'd have more information to make that decision.
Councillor Newman?
Can I just say something to Grace's comments about the slides and the swings and stuff like that? Having kids who've been through that young toddler stage where it is that play equipment is really important. But now that I've got older kids, they're not on the swings and the slides anymore. They want to be like up at the top of the pirate ship, hiding out, or they want to be like going around the field. So I wonder if it is like a different age and stage, and it's that play, like an invitation to come into that space and play in that space. For different age kids might be, you know, like the people who design the park are park designers for a reason, right? And they know how to get those different ages to interact with the different elements. And so maybe because I know that my kids were totally at the same stage where they just wanted to be on the swing and be pushed for 4 hours. But it does change. And so I just wanted to highlight that it does shift with your kids.
The only thing I'd say, and I feel completely unqualified to be involved in this.
Oh, you like to swing, don't you?
Somewhere over 30 years since I was on any sort of playground. If I turn up now, people look at me strange.
Get arrested.
I'm not calling out, but I'm prepared to be guided by people who know what they're talking about.
All right. Very good discussion. Just touching on what our deputy mayor said, would have liked to have seen an option, because I know we did talk around the table around good quality off the shelf, just to provide us what can we get within $1.5 million. And Councillor Lawrence has made a good point. Do we put this on hold and ask for a little bit more information? I know this is ready to go, but ask for something to show what can we get off the shelf for 1.5, and we go out to the community and we ask them through an engagement. Do you want this one, or do you want this one?
I still feel we should go to the community and say, you know, we can actually do better if you would like to help contribute. And you could have, for example, here's our 2 million base. Here's a thermometer saying this is what we'd like to achieve. Put it up there, get real community support for it, include commercial, could perhaps include sponsorship, I don't know. But it actually engages the community. Now, if the community does not want to engage in that, doesn't that say something?
I feel that's a fair idea, but do you do that with other things that are associated with the park?
Well, at this stage,
prove that
I think, well, you can extrapolate, but I think at this stage, this is sort of like getting to be a go, no go sort of decision. I sort of feel that if we just go for 2 million and just cut it off there, we may it may be underwhelming, right? What I'm saying here is that we can make it a lot better if the community is interested in helping put towards it. Could be we have a 2.5 budget or even a 3 million budget. You don't know at the moment because we haven't actually tried the community out. And I feel the community will engage with it. And I think we could be pleasantly surprised.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think if you put a timeline on that, we might not be looking at starting this project for 12 months, 2 years, even longer for the to raise. How much are you expecting the community to raise?
Well, that's I guess to be decided. But why would it take 12 months to raise sufficient money? It could well be that you put a deadline on it and say whatever the amount is, that's what we're going for as at this date. And putting pressure on it actually then helps people to make a commitment. You make it, no end on it, it will fall flat. People respond to deadlines.
We've already got a thermometer out there for the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yes. Can I suggest that we may end up putting pressure on the community anyway, because we'll have to remove the unsafe play equipment, which will bring the issue to the fore very quickly.
I think the community will understand the position we're in. We're being told time and time again, to be responsible with community funds. And there's two parts to it. One is I do think the community would like to get engaged if they're invited to. But the other thing is that we do have to be very disciplined in what we put our money towards.
I think if you look back at what you've just suggested there, I think we have been very frugal with the money that's been set aside in the financial contributions and depreciation, and that's why it's built up to 4-point-something million. So the community might be looking at it, why have you built up these and not done something with the park? So you can look at it two ways, and I for one, would not want to be going at the community with my hand out when they've already contributed to the financial contributions and depreciation, asking for more money.
You're saying that all of the reserves go into one project.
Well, it's not, because there's 4-point-something million sitting there. So it's not, it's a large sum of it.
And Glenda's just said that other parks don't need a big investment coming up anytime soon either. So it's not like there really is an urgent need for it somewhere else.
And there is also a comment in the paper that with Soleil's new plan, that in fact the level of reserve fund contributions that we might be collecting will in fact be higher than they have been. So we're a chance to recoup or build the fund back up again.
I think that responsible use of the money is being responsible, but also responsibly investing in projects which are actually going to add to our town. Because I think if we take that financial responsibility or austerity too far, and we don't invest in anything meaningful, it actually just starts to be like a sinking ship. So I see this project as really adding something to Carterton and being a responsible use of this reserves fund, which was put aside for.
So you pay for it before you wouldn't want to go back to the community and say, how much do you support this?
I like the community idea. And I think that I think I'm just mindful of the timeline, and I think I wouldn't want it to be another year or two. I like the idea of going to the community and then them having some ownership, maybe of some extras, as you're talking about. I feel like I'd like to support moving the project forward.
So we pay the full amount.
I'm involved with the fundraising for the swimming pool, and it is, as is the Lions Club, and it's inching up. 5,000 here, 2,000 there.
You don't have a deadline on it though, do you?
Yeah, the thing's falling down.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's no deadline on saying we need to know by this date, right? Because I certainly believe psychologically that it has a real bearing, that there's the fear of missing out type thing. You know, if you have a deadline, people respond to that.
I'm just telling you that I think it would be take an extraordinarily long time to raise $800,000.
Okay. I'm going to move us to our recommendations. And I'll take the first one. I'll move that we receive the report. Do we have a second? Thank you, Councillor Newman. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And we have two recommendations that we either approves an additional 900,000 unbudgeted expenditure funded from Reserves Contribution Fund and Parks and Reserves Depreciation Reserve as appropriate, or recommends officers continue to refine the scope of the project to fit into the budget that is previously allocated. I'm happy to move that we approve an additional 900,000 unbudgeted expenditure. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Newman, all in favour, please say aye or raise your hands, please. There is 5 against. Brian, did you raise your hand at all with that? Sorry, I didn't see you.
No, I did not raise my hand. I'm against that.
So I see 5-4. Okay. So that has carried. Option 2. That we approve an additional 900,000 unbudgeted expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Leela?
It's close.
Brian, we just I'm just going to take an adjournment for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Collier.
So
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot.
see you back here at 3:05. Thank you.
Would say, look, we finished at 4:00.